We look at three more free agent options for the San Jose Sharks as they look to revamp their blue line, including an analytics darling.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do is just follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be looking at three defensemen, free agents who might help the Sharks as they, again, need to add some talent to the blue line. We're going to be looking at Nick Perbix and analytics darling, Matt Grzelcyk, who could be a bounce back candidate, and then Henri Jokiharju, who a low-cost option who I think could be worth a flyer for the San Jose Sharks. So we're going to start with Nick Perbix here in a second, just as a reminder. The Sharks currently have about $20 million in cap space that they have to spend just to comfortably hit the cap floor, and $40 million total in cap space. So they should be active in free agency. So we are, again, looking at some potential players here, because you can't roll out the same group of guys and just say, I hope they all get better, guys. I don't think it would be, I don't think it's the right course of action, especially with Askarov in net. So the first guy I want to look at here, Nick Perbix, who, he's might be pretty good. So Perbix, former 6th round pick in the 2017 draft. He's 6'4", 206-pound, right-handed shot. He's been playing with the Tampa Bay Lightning for the last few seasons. Turns 27 here, basically the mid next week. Played college at St. Cloud State. So this is a player who's kind of worked his way up, but has shown some really nice underlying numbers, which we're going to get to here. So Perbix this year played 74 games, had 6 goals, 13 assists, with 66 shots on goal, averaging 14.41 time on ice, Corsi 4. So when he was on the ice, the Lightning took 51.74% of the shot attempts. And when he was on the ice, they scored 52.33% of the goals. He's coming off a 2-year contract at $1.25 million AAV. So with Perbix, right, the big question for him, and we'll get to a little bit more, is he's never had to be the guy, but he's put up very nice underlying numbers, not as the guy. So he, as a kind of, third pairing defenseman for the Lightning, 72nd percentile player, 83rd percentile offensively, 40th percentile defensively. Basically, you got no power player shorthanded time, which again, they're going to defer to other players on the Lightning. So 68th percentile WAR over the last 3 years as a depth defenseman, 64th percentile offense, 51st percentile defense. Very nice numbers when it comes to kind of assists and goals. Hasn't had to face the toughest competition, and with that also hasn't had the greatest teammates as well, again playing as a depth player for the Lightning. Looking at his all 3 zones chart from Corey Schneider, Perbix, this is where you get excited. He is excellent at zone entries, excellent at defensive zone retrievals and getting the puck out of his own zone. He's great at driving offense. He's very good even at zone defense, like just not letting guys get into the zone. Perbix, again, analytics darling here, what he does. Looking at his usage, average depth defenseman is, doesn't gets a fair amount of offensive zone starts, but, doesn't face the toughest competition as we kind of expected. So where he would fit with the Sharks, right? And we know the Sharks need more right-handed defensemen if Greer wants to try to have that balance. And Perbix would definitely fit in that and would be a potential option to run the power play, at least for now, or, at least I think get a chance at it. But he's done very well in a very, very limited role for the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is, again, right, you'd rather see a guy do well even with a small role before you try to kind of project him going forward. And again, he's never going to have an opportunity to kind of do more, right? Especially with the defensemen that they have on that team, some guy named Victor Hedman. They have he's going to soak up a bunch of your opportunities. And I know they've kind of moved on some from players here and there, over the past couple of years as they've been kind of remaking this thing on the fly and still continuing to be a competitive team. But as long as Victor Hedman is there, he's going to kind of command a lot of the opportunities. And Perbix, again, playing in a very limited role of about, less than 15 minutes ice time a night. So that's the big question, right? Is what happens if Perbix goes from 15 minutes of ice time a night to 20 minutes of ice time a night? Do those analytics and those numbers and his ability to drive play on a much weaker team, right? I think it's pretty fair to say the San Jose Sharks are not the Tampa Bay Lightning. Is he going to be able to do the same sort of things? And that's a tough question to ask, right? Because we haven't seen him be able to do it, or he hasn't been able to give a chance. So you're definitely betting on Perbix. If you do go out and sign him, you're definitely betting on there being some untapped potential or some untapped opportunity where, if given a bigger role, he could continue to produce similar results that we saw with him playing in a very limited, I don't want to say shelter, but at least very limited role with the Tampa Bay Lightning. So what type of contract would Perbix command? According to Evolving Hockey, 38% chance that he signs a 3-year deal, just a hair under $3 million. So at they have him at 2.9. 30% chance he also signs the deal at 4 years at 3.31 million. Those are kind of your two big ones there. So, and again, Evolving Hockey, I think they're the most accurate of the forecasts, and I'm going to continue to rely on them, and at least when it comes to kind of projecting forecasts. So let's just say 3 years at $3 million. We're going to throw an extra 100,000 in there for the Sharks to kind of make up for the potential of the bad team tax, we'll just call it, right? So 3 years at $3 million. Honestly, I think that's a worthy flyer. And if he doesn't work out, right, I think he can still be a really solid, sixth defenseman, which unfortunately the Sharks have 1,006 defensemen on their roster. But I think he's kind of in that nice age range of where he's not going to, that contract is not going to age poorly on you. And the worst case is maybe he's just a little bit overpaid for his role, but I think he can still drive offense. And I think a lot of his skills will still be translatable, especially when it comes to the puck moving ability and hopefully generating offense. And you never know, right? Maybe he could be a guy who can kind of be a bridge number, or at least, I don't want to say number one defenseman, but a bridge offensive leaning defenseman for you while you wait for your Canyones and your Dickinsons and whoever else to kind of fully mature and kind of grow into their projected roles with the Sharks. I think he could be a really nice kind of bridge guy for that and give a guy an opportunity to potentially, take on a bigger role and see what he does with it, right? You look at, again, I hate to keep doing it, but you look at the Jake Wallman thing, right? Jake Wallman never really got the chance to kind of be that guy, and we saw him do it very well for the first half of the season before he got injured. And he's playing a much different role for Edmonton, but and Wallman, of course, played much tougher competition and had a bigger role with Detroit, but he played a much different role with the Sharks, and he did very, very well with it before he got injured. So Perbix, I think if you strike out on some of the big names, or that's not it would be, I think Perbix could be a really, really nice fallback option, and a guy who's been maybe underutilized with the Lightning, and maybe give him an opportunity to kind of see what he can do, especially, again, if it's only going to be 3 years at $3 million. I think that's like a perfect contract for what the Sharks are looking for on the back end here. So we're going to look at a couple other guys here who a potential bounce back candidate, and Matt Grzelcyk, and why, again, I think might be an option for San Jose as they look to revamp the blue line. So we'll get to that in just 1 second. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each one ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller, longer. Personally, I like the in-shell variety. I like hearing that little crack when you open each nut. It's like a snack meditation. But if you like the no-shell variety, I'm not going to shell shame you. There's plenty of great options for everyone, plenty of great different flavors to choose from. Personally, I like to throw a bag into my desk. Right around 2:30, you get that little snacky feeling. They got you covered, and they'll hold you over at least until dinner time. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, before we continue, we talk about Grizzlick. Do want to, of course, thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. If you haven't yet, perfect time to subscribe. Next week, we do our simulated off-season. I put on my Mike Grier hat, do what I think Mike Grier should do. Realistic, like I'm not going to go out and just, the Sharks traded for Connor McDavid for 7th round pick. Like, we're going to have a realistic offseason simulation, basically kind of spread out over the week on what I think Mike Grier should do, who they should take care of in house, who they should draft, who they should sign in free agency, and then kind of an outlook of where the Sharks should be with my offseason. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts, and of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. All right, the next guy here, Matt Grzelcyk. So Grizzlick, not a little bit, but a little bit older guy, not too old. I still think a guy worth potentially looking at here. So Grizzlick's 31. He won't turn 32 until mid-January. Former 3rd round pick of the Boston Bruins. Of course, played at Boston University. Ding, 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 ring the bell. Circle, highlight, et cetera, et cetera. Left-handed defenseman, 5'10", 180 pounds. So maybe not the size that we know kind of Mike Grier covets, but still a veteran who's played 527 games in the NHL, has 26 goals, 149 assists, 175 points during that time. And last year played a career high in almost over 20 and a half minutes a night for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Didn't have the greatest season, but we'll get into that here in a second. So with the Penguins, he signed a 1-year contract at $2.75 million, and is coming off that. 82 games, 1 goal, 39 assists, 94 shots on goal. Like I said, average 20-37, average time on ice, 50% Corsi for, 48.84% goals for. We know the Penguins, much like the Sharks, not the greatest defensive team in the world last year, and that was one of their big downfalls. And you can look at the age of their defensemen, right, and maybe the style of defensemen and such. But Grizzlick just, was. I think it's fair to say he didn't have the greatest year with the Penguins, and that team is in the middle of, I think, trying to find itself and figure out what they are, and if they're trying to rebuild or retool or whatever they're doing. Grizzlick was brought in at least for a season, and is now a free agent. With the Penguins last year, 47th percentile player, playing kind of top pairing minutes. Had at least a solid goals above replacement. Expected goals above replacement, not super great, but played a fair amount on the power play. Played a little bit on the penalty kill and produced solid results in there as well. So he's another guy who could maybe kind of come in and help your special teams out, as the Sharks do need some help on the special teams. Looking at his WAR over the past couple seasons, 11% WAR, so wins above replacement, really cratered in the 23-24 season, but did kind of have a nice bounce back last year. Again, the offense, he's not going to be a guy who drives offense for you, but he plays tough competition, 75% tough competition, does have usually good teammates, but I think is a guy who could be worth at least potential look at. So looking at his all three zones, if you're looking on YouTube, it's not pretty. There's a lot of orange bars and red bars, and he struggled in a lot of stuff. Pretty solid though at zone entry defense and keeping the other team out of the from coming into the zone. Was utilized as a average top 4 two-way defenseman. So saw kind of tougher competition. Did see some more offensive zone starts, kind of, which is what you would expect playing the minutes that he played. But if you look at Grizzlick's other seasons, a lot of his, especially his all three zones and his defense and kind of carrying the puck and stuff, are much positive and much better when he was with the Boston Bruins. And again, Boston Bruins, much better team, at least over the past couple seasons until this year. And, again, maybe not asked to do as much, but, I think for kind of shared his fair share of the load over there with. So with Grizzlick, you're kind of hoping that he can get back to what you would see with Boston, where he could be a nice kind of complementary piece. Maybe not the guy on the line, but could help drive offense, continue to shut things down, especially on zone entries, and maybe help carry the puck a little bit to, or at least start the transition from the defensive zone to the offensive zone. So that's what you're kind of hoping with him, is where he would fit in with the San Jose Sharks. Most likely, just if we're being honest, Grizzlick would probably would easily be a top 4 defenseman for the Sharks, just because of who else they have. Of course, the problem is, one, he is left-handed, and the Sharks we do know Greer wants to be a little bit more balanced, so maybe that takes Grizzlick out of the running. And the contract that he would potentially get, not too bad. So Grizzlick is projected to sign a 3-year deal at $4 million, 51% likelihood. Next two would be like a 4-year deal at 4.8 and a 2-year deal that's at 19%, and a 2-year deal at like 3.4, and that's at 13%. So you're going to get him for 3 years at $4 million. And I think the problem is you kind of have Grizzlick on your team already, and his name is Mario Ferraro, and he's much younger, and Ferraro is entering the last year of his deal, and he's going to you're going to have to make a decision on Mario Ferraro. So and like, they're different players, but I think they have a lot of the same kind of overlap, at least especially in San Jose, that you wonder if Grizzlick might be redundant, I guess would be the best word for it. But I do think, though, like, if he can get back to how he was in Boston, especially kind of, before he left there, I think there's an opportunity for a team to get Grizzlick and feel like you might have kind of struck gold, at least for, if he does sign a 3-year deal, maybe 2 out of those 3 years. And then, by the end of his contract, where he's going to be, he'll be 34 basically by the end of that contract. You'll probably be getting out of the right time with a guy like Grizzlick. And the cost, again, at $4 million isn't prohibitive, and I don't think that's going to be the worst contract in the world. That's not ever going to, I don't think, going to make one of those worst contracts on the team list. But there is some risk, especially with his age, if maybe he just never gets back to what he was with Boston before he kind of fell out of favor there. So again, just another guy to maybe kind of keep in mind. I don't think it's like Mike Greer's first move, and maybe it's one of those if he tries some other things and they don't work out, maybe just adding another guy who can be dependable on the blue line and Grizzlick. I think you can kind of talk me into that at least. So we're going to look at a potential defenseman who's maybe worth a flyer here in Jokiharju here in just 1 second. All right, before we finish up, do want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, let's finish up here with Henri Jokiharju. Really fun name to say. I've been saying it all day, trying to practice to make sure I got it somewhat right. But Jokiharju, a former first-round pick of the Chicago Blackhawks in the 2017 draft, 29th overalls, kind of bounced around a little bit here. So he started with the Blackhawks, played with the Sabres, went to the Bruins last season, and got traded from Buffalo to Boston. And again, maybe not the best year from him, but he's played 407 games professionally in the NHL, 19 goals, 78 assists, 97 points. So not gonna, I don't think, drive a ton of offense, but played about 21 and a half minutes last year with Boston in 18 games at the end of the season. Yes, I know it was a kind of lost cause for them at the end of the year, but as a guy who has put up, multiple 21-minute a night seasons, and then, has played mostly kind of, 17, 18, 19 minutes a night kind of throughout his career, averaging 19, 10 a night throughout his career. So a guy who definitely can kind of help eat up some minutes for you. This season, so he's coming off a 1-year deal at $3.1 million. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds. 26 years old, turns 26 next week. So he's kind of like Perbix June birthday here. So he turns 26 next week. Coming off a 1-year deal at $3.1 million that he signed with the Buffalo Sabres. He has 60 games split between the Sabres and the Bruins, 3 goals, 7 assists, 59 shots on goal, averaging a little under 18 minutes a night. That shows the disparity, how much he was playing with Boston versus how much he was playing with Buffalo. When he was on the ice, though, Corsi for 51.48%. So they were taking 51.48% of the shot attempts, and then goals for 56.10%. So he was on the ice for a lot of goals for, you like to see. 34th percentile defenseman, kind of playing second pairing minutes. And again, this is split between Boston and Buffalo. 58th percentile offensively, 24th percentile defensively. Didn't get much power play time. Played a little bit of shorthanded time, not super great during that time, at least when it comes to kind of limiting goals, et cetera, expected goals and goals above replacement. So 35 percentile WAR over the past 3 seasons, but you've seen it climb. And this is where you're kind of hoping and taking a flyer, because he was around 25%, 22-23 season, kind of like 30%, 23-24, but closer to 50% this last year. And the defense has been improving there. He faced solid competition during that time as well. And, I think this is a player, again, if you're looking for someone to take a flyer on, Jokiharju, not the worst guy in the world. Look at his all 3 zones. Not super pretty, especially when it comes to the zone entry defense. He can kind of struggle in that area, but does a solid job of kind of exiting with possession out of the zone when, there's a lot of botched attempts there, but he can get the puck going the other way, which the Sharks do want and do need. And the offense has been, again, not he's not the one kind of driving the bus offensively. So has been used as an average top 4 two-way defenseman, where he's been getting kind of a little bit lesser quality of competition, solid quality of competition, but and not as many zone starts, and has done good things with that. So I think with Jokiharju, the thing we'll just talk about the contract, because I think that's the thing that makes it the most appealing with him, because he's definitely a potential flyer, like where you can kind of take a flyer on him and see how he does. So he is projected to sign a 1-year deal at 1.57 or 1.5 $56 million, $1.6 million. Sorry, excuse me. And 20% the chance of that, or a 2-year deal at like $2.5 million. So you can sign him very short term. And again, the Sharks, who need more right-handed defensemen if you want to have more balance, Jokiharju, you could bring him in and kind of just see how it goes, because one, he's still young, right? He's 26, and he's just turning 26 next week. So even if you sign him to a 1-year deal, even at the end of that contract, he'll be 27. So you can bring him in and just kind of see what happens for a year. And if you want to resign him to kind of a medium-term contract next year because he does well in his role, that's kind of gives you some options. Or maybe you kind of do the pump and dump, right, where you give him an opportunity to play, and then you trade him at the trade deadline for, probably a mid-round pick type of if he does perform well for you. So again, I don't know if the offense is potentially there with him, but I do think there would be definitely a role with him, and maybe putting him with a guy like Shakir Mukhamadullin can kind of transition to that puck moving a little bit better, and Jokiharju can kind of maybe focus a little bit more on the defense, and those two guys might, provide some, I think would be a good combination together. Or if you wanted to maybe put him with Mario Ferraro and let Mario Ferraro do Mario Ferraro things. I do think he's a guy who I would be interested in taking a flyer on, especially one, because the contract's gonna be super cheap. And two, I think there might be something there. Again, not worth, as a former first round pick, maybe not, going to be a top 4 defenseman for you, or I guess he'd be probably a second pairing defenseman for the Sharks. But I think it's a very low risk, which could potentially have a solid reward for you if you're San Jose, and if you're Mike Grier and you want to, again, just try to take some flyers on some guys and see if they work out. So, especially if you strike out elsewhere, I think he'd be a solid addition on the blue line for very, very reasonable cost. So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow as we finish up our draft profiles. Sam McGilligan comes on to close this thing out. We'll have 30 draft profiles done. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Until tomorrow, bye, friends.